I moved to Ashbridge Meadows thinking it would be peaceful. I'd spent most of my adult life in downtown Philadelphia, working long nights as a paramedic. After I retired, I wanted something quiet, something green. Ashbridge had that kind of charm you see on postcards, neatly trimmed hedges, mailboxes with hand-painted numbers, families grilling on Sundays. I bought a modest two-story home on a corner lot with a big oak tree in the yard and a wraparound porch I could drink my coffee on. It felt like a reward for surviving all the chaos I'd left behind. I didn't expect anyone to roll out the welcome mat, but I also didn't expect Florence Whitman. She showed up 2 days after I moved in, wearing white slacks, a pastel blouse, and a tight smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Said she was the community chair, but her business card read Neighborhood Wellness Coordinator, whatever that meant. She handed me a welcome pamphlet thicker than my mortgage packet and pointed at the porch swing I'd just installed. Swings must be pre-approved, she said, voice syrupy, even decorative ones. I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. That was my first encounter with Florence. The next came a week later, when I received a warning for having overgrown lawn edges and unregistered exterior lighting. It was a string of solar lights I bought off Amazon. My neighbor across the street had a dozen garden gnomes and a flamingo in a tuxedo. But apparently, my soft walkway lighting was a threat to the aesthetic fabric of Ashbridge Meadows. I tried to stay out of trouble. I really did. But things kept escalating. Every time I so much as spoke to someone at the mailbox, Florence would appear the next day with a clipboard and a citation. I started to wonder if she had my house under surveillance. One morning, I waved at a neighbor named Tony while walking my dog, Pepper. By that evening, I had a violation notice taped to my door. Excessive loitering and unsanctioned engagement with fellow residents, Section 6.42. It was surreal. Who writes people up for smiling in public? Still, I figured it was just a case of someone with too much time and not enough hobbies. That changed on a Wednesday morning when two uniformed men knocked on my door. They weren't police. They wore navy polo shirts with Ashbridge Security Division stitched in gold. No badges, no IDs. One of them told me they were conducting a compliance sweep and needed to check my backyard for unauthorized structures. I told them to leave. They refused. I told them again, this time less politely. That's when one of them reached for his walkie and muttered something about non-cooperative resident code 2. I slammed the door. An hour later, Florence sent an email claiming I had violated the Neighborhood Security Cooperation Agreement, something I had never heard of, let alone signed. I started digging. The HOA website looked official, but oddly bare. No meeting minutes. No transparency. The so-called security division wasn't listed anywhere in public records. I found Florence's name on a dozen community bulletins, all self-signed. She wasn't elected. She had created the position. I contacted the county clerk. They had no record of an officially registered HOA for Ashbridge Meadows. That's when the pit in my stomach formed. This wasn't just petty rules. This was something else entirely. The breaking point came when Florence ordered a corrective action protocol against me. She claimed I had been undermining neighborhood harmony by waving to residents and displaying unapproved outdoor sympathy gestures. What she meant was I had a small rainbow flag hanging from my porch post. That Saturday, I got a notice delivered by hand, not mail, Florence herself stood on my porch, arms crossed, sunglasses on, with her clipboard and a cold smile. To restore communal trust, she said, you are required to perform 3 hours of visual apology standing on the green, hands joined in restraint, with clear signage of your disruption. I laughed. I genuinely laughed, thinking it was some kind of HOA roleplay nightmare. She didn't blink. Failure to comply will result in immediate community expulsion, she added, then walked off without another word. I called my brother, who's a civil rights attorney in Chicago. He didn't believe me until I forwarded the email. Then I heard the silence on the other end of the line. You need to document everything, he said. All of it. Now. That's what I did. I started saving emails, printing notices, and filming interactions with Florence and her so-called security team. I installed cameras of my own. I also reached out to some neighbors. Turns out, I wasn't alone. 2 single moms on the next street over had been publicly corrected for talking to the same man. An older man got fined $300 for having a bird feeder that encouraged congregating activity. It wasn't an HOA. It was a cult with bylaws and clipboards. Then one of the single moms, Teresa, had a stroke right on her front lawn. Florence's security stopped the ambulance at the gate, said the EMTs hadn't checked in. They lost 5 minutes fighting to get through. Teresa survived. Barely. That's when people started whispering more openly. I wasn't the only one documenting now. Someone leaked a chain of internal emails to a local reporter messages where Florence wrote things like, soft consequences breed discipline, and public displays are the most effective correction. It blew up, not just locally, nationally. The video of me refusing to comply with a visual apology went viral. A teenager across the street had filmed it, me standing at the top of my porch. Florence shouting that I'd be fined $5,000 if I didn't step onto the lawn. The kid posted it with the caption, "My neighbor's getting HOA crucified for having a flag." The internet did what the internet does. Hashtags, duets, reaction videos, then lawyers, real ones. One name kept popping up in my inbox, Monica Rivas, former DOJ civil rights litigator. She reached out directly, said she'd seen enough to believe this wasn't just misconduct. It was a violation of 42 U.S.C. Paragraph 83. Color of law, she said. She's pretending to be a government actor while violating your constitutional rights. We filed the lawsuit 2 weeks later. And then everything changed. Florence tried to defend herself, claimed everything was voluntary compliance and that I had misunderstood community values. But those emails were airtight, especially one that said, visibility is control. If they smile freely, what's next resistance? The judge didn't even let the trial go the full week, ruled in our favor, declared Florence's entire HOA regime unlawful, ordered her to cease all enforcement, pay damages, and barred her from holding any leadership role in any neighborhood association ever again. It wasn't just a victory. It was a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding for months. I stood on that same porch where she once handed me my first citation. And for the first time, I saw neighbors walking by, waving, not out of fear, just waving. Someone left flowers on my steps. Someone else left a note. Thank you for not giving in. Today, we're building something new. A real neighborhood committee, one with elections, transparency, and rules that make sense. We meet on the green Every other Saturday, people bring lemonade and folding chairs. We call it the Ash Bridge Alliance. There's no clipboard, just conversation. Sometimes I still look at that porch swing, the one Florence hated so much. I don't plan to take it down. It creaks in the wind now and then, reminding me of all the noise silence used to cover. And every now and then, I smile because here, in my home, that's no longer a crime.